Hello, and welcome back for another puzzle video. This time we are on the lake map, piloting the Lord of the Hundreds for an endgame puzzle. Now we're coming from all the way in the back at 18 victory points here, and we're going to win this turn. So let's take a look at the Lord of the Hundreds position. The Warlord himself is not on the map. Alright, that pawn is missing, and will have to be anointed back into the game, somewhere amongst these warriors. There are 3 strongholds in this fox clearing, in the center right-hand side. And the Lord of the Hundreds has crafted false orders, and has a boot and a bag in the Horde. Both of those are command items, so currently possessing 2 command actions during daylight. There are 2 little text boxes at the bottom of the Warlord's side panel there. One says Highway Bandits, the other says the Brigand. And if you look around the map carefully, you'll notice that there are a couple of pink warriors around. Those are hirelings, something that we've not featured on this channel before. But in this puzzle, the hirelings will play a key role. So let's keep an eye on those. Currently, the Lord of the Hundreds controls the Highway Bandits and the Brigand. In hand, we have Foxfolk Steel, a crossbow, and Fox Partisans. Tuck that away at the bottom of your screen for handy-dandy reference. Let's take a look at the Duchy. The Duchy have their strong point right in the center of the map. They control the ferry. They have a market and a tunnel in this mouse clearing that they share with 1 lone sympathy token. The Duchy are currently in the lead with 24 points. They've swayed the Foremold, Marshal, Brigadier, and Mayor, and 2 lords, which were both removed due to price of failure when these 2 buildings were sanctified. They've done a whole bunch of crafting this game, crafting coins, a bag, and a boot. So doing really, really well on their crafting game. Their past turn, they revealed Mouse Partisans, a Visit to Friends, and a crossbow in order to sway. And they currently have 5 cards in hand. Let's take a look at the Lizard Cult. The Lizard Cult currently has an outcast that is Hated Rabbit, 2 acolytes, they've crafted tunnels, and the coins and the tea. Currently, it looks like they're kind of going tall a little bit in Rabbit. They've got 4 rabbit gardens on the map, but they also have 2 mouse gardens and 1 fox garden. And they've kept up a nice scoring tempo over the course of this game. They're at 19 points. It puts them 1 point ahead of us, and potentially maybe not in contention to win the game, I guess, depending on their hand, which, by the way, let's take a look at. On their past turn, they revealed Mouse Dominance, which they used to score, a Fox Ambush card, a Bird Ambush card, a Bake Sale, which they crafted, and a Rabbit Dominance card, which they also used to score. In hand, they have 5 cards. And taking a look at the Lost Souls, we can actually confirm what I just mentioned. We see both those Dominance cards plus the Bake Sale. And it looks like it's going to be Mouse on the next turn. One thing you may have noticed is there's an extra landmark on this map. That is the Elder Treetop. It adds a building slot to its clearing. Whenever a player removes an enemy building from the Elder Treetop slot, they score an extra point, 2 in total, not 1. And that is in the bottom left-hand corner. It's one of the Lizard Rabbit Gardens is occupying that extra building slot. Very nice. Time to take a look at the Woodland Alliance. The Alliance is currently based in the top center clearing, the most well-connected clearing on the map. They have a rabbit base and some sympathy tokens in the area. Doing pretty well. They're at 20 points. That's definitely within the danger zone. Although they only have 3 supporters as it stands. Probably not enough to quite win on their turn, depending on if they can craft. In their hand, they have 3 cards. And the Woodland Alliance, you can tell from this text box, controls the Street Band Hireling. The Street Band. Let's take a look at the Street Band. Enemies cannot move from a clearing with a band warrior on the same turn that they moved into it. So, if you move into a clearing with a street band warrior, you gotta stick around and watch the performance, you know? It's just rude to leave in the middle of a concert. During Once in Daylight, you may place a band warrior in any clearing. So the Alliance has decided to use their daylight actions to place these band warriors in clearings close to home. And we have this lone street band character in the bottom center here. Very nice. Speaking of hirelings, let's check back in on these Highway Bandits. Lord of the Hundreds is in control of these, and since it's the promoted side, when an enemy moves on a path with a bandit, they must remove 1 moving piece, or damage 1 item if the vagabond. For the controller, when you move on a path with a bandit, you may place a warrior in the destination clearing. Right? It's sort of like you recruit 1 dude on the way if you pass by one of these bandits. You kind of pick them up on the way, right? Once in daylight, you may place a bandit on a path without one, linked to a clearing with your faction pieces. You can kind of send a scouting bandit ahead and then follow it to gain an additional warrior, right? If no bandits are in the supply, you may remove one in order to place it. There's a total of 4 bandits in the supply, but only 3 are on the map right now. All of those pretty close to where the Lord of the Hundreds is based. Could come in handy. Lastly, we're in control of the Brigand. The Brigand, the demoted side of the Vagabond Hireling, says once in daylight the controller may take an item from a ruin in a clearing with your faction pieces. As Lord of the Hundreds, put it in your hoard. If you took the last item from the ruin, remove the ruin. For factions who are not the Lord of the Hundreds, there's an additional feature of the Brigand which says once in daylight you may exhaust an item in your crafted items box, not the hoard, to take a random card from a player with faction pieces in a clearing with your faction pieces. Kind of like you hire this bandit to go and steal a card from another faction that shares a clearing with you. I love this this art here, this like weasel thing with the treasure chest, this tiny treasure chest, very cute. Let's take one quick look at the discard pile. Here it is. There it is. And let's take a look at the deck. 8 cards left. Okay, that is our setup. With all of that in mind, it's time to go to Birdsong and the start of our winning turn as the Lord of the Hundreds. Can you find the thread, the strategic path forward to win this game? I'll give you a couple of seconds to work out your winning turn. Okay, for those of you who've worked out your win here, congratulations. And for those of you who are just along for the ride, let's walk through the solution together. Before we dive into the solution here, I want to give a shout out to Good Time Society. Thank you for sponsoring this video. This is part of a series getting some hype going around RootCon 2023, an event held in Portland, Oregon at Guardian Games, August 19th and 20th, all about Root. There's going to be a Root tournament, Root panels, a live stream, a live puzzle, all sorts of fun stuff. If you like Root trivia, if you like Root in general, you're going to love it. All right, without further ado, let's get into the solution here. It is time to solve. First things first, we're going to raise in the top left-hand corner. It's the only target for our mob tokens. So we're getting rid of this sympathy token for 1 point. It is going to trigger outrage, so we need to choose from our cards which we're going to get rid of. Obviously, we're going to get rid of the crossbow. You might be thinking, hold on a second, that's an item card. We could craft it and get an item in our hoard for the advanced step. That is true, but there's not just one way to gain items as Lord of the Hundreds. So we're coughing up that bird card to the Alliance, and we're going to roll the mob die. I actually use this program called Photo Dice, so shout out to the maker of Photo Dice. This is super fun. I was able to replace all the faces on this D6 with the suits for Root. It did come up Fox, because of course it did. And unfortunately, there's actually no Fox clearings that we can spread our mob tokens to. Spreading a mob token this round really wouldn't have made any difference either way, so no matter what suit it was, the RNG would not have impacted the solution. Now it's time to recruit. At our 3 strongholds, 3 rat warriors appear. Then it's time to anoint. We're going to promote Jerry into a warlord here on the Fox clearing in the middle right-hand side. And now it's finally time to choose a new mood. We were just rowdy, so we can't choose that. And we have a boot and a bag currently in the horde, so those moods are off limits. That means we're down to just these 5 to choose from. Did you choose the correct mood? The answer was, of course, Wrathful. As attacker in battle with Warlord, you deal an extra hit. That extra hit is going to be very, very handy coming up. Last but not least, before we leave Birdsong, we do have to use our false orders, of course. If you got this far, and you know how to use this false orders, then you are a Root wizard. But for the rest of us, I'll just give you a couple seconds to think about the target for this false orders. All right, of course, we are going to use our false orders in target. The single lizard in the bottom left-hand corner. Recall that the lizards have crafted tunnels, and the outcast is currently rabbit-hated. That means that for this turn, while the outcast is in the rabbit suit, all of these rabbit gardens are crafting pieces. So tunnels, which lets you move warriors in between crafting pieces, is valid to use for false orders. So we can actually send this single lizard through this garden into this clearing, skipping over the adjacent clearings. The reason this is so helpful is because we want to clear the way for a press in this section of the board. Let's see that in action now. It's daylight, so before we do anything, we're going to craft both of these cards in hand, Foxfolk Steel and Fox Partisans. Anytime you craft an item as the Lord of the Hundreds, you get a choice. You can craft it for the points, or you can craft it for the item and forego the points. This time we're choosing the points. That's right, we're giving away this item, not going to keep it in the hoard, instead just going to take those points. For end games with Lord of the Hundreds, sometimes it can be very useful to just go for the points. With Fox Partisans on board, it's time to use our first command action. We're going to send our entire army of rats, one clearing to the left, noting that we're using a path that has a bandit on it, so we do gain one extra rat warrior. Very handy. Now, since we're moving into a clearing with the sympathy token, this triggers outrage. The Woodland Alliance is going to top deck a card for their supporters. And with our second command action, we're going to battle that sympathy. But not just battle that sympathy, we're going to loot the Woodland Alliance for their tea. We will deal an extra hit because it's an undefended token, but since we're in battle with the Warlord, we're dealing an additional extra hit from Wrathful. We know the Alliance, by the way, doesn't have any ambushes because we've been able to track them all, thanks to the Lizard's Lost Souls and the discard pile. So let's gain a point for that sympathy token coming off the board. And now it's time for Advance the Warlord. With a T on board, we now have 2 advance actions to use. Our first one is going to be to take the ferry all the way across the lake, of course, drawing tunnels on the way. Every time we advance, we can move and then may battle. So that's our move. Let's go ahead and initiate a battle against the lizards in this clearing. Now we have Fox Partisans and Wrathful, which means we're dealing at least 2 extra hits, so we can afford to loot the lizards. That's right. We're going to loot them for their tea, getting both teas, assembling all the teas in the game. All right, we are going to deal 2 hits. We're removing a garden, so we're getting a point. And remember, the lizards had that fox ambush in hand. They're going to use it, and we'll assume worst case scenario, we've rolled a 1-1 here in this battle. So that single lizard warrior is going to take out one of ours and 2 more due to the ambush. So we're losing 3 warriors altogether, but we are regaining control over this clearing after the battle. So we're definitely going to get a hold of that tea. And it's going into the horde. We're still at 2 advance actions. Now it's time for our second. Let's remember that we have 2 hirelings that we control right now. One is the Brigand, the other is Highway Bandits. If you look at the ruins, there's 2 ruins left. One of these is a hammer, the other one's a sword. Since both the Ruin Boot and the Ruin Bag are already in our horde, that means only the prowess items are left. So we're going to get 1 more by using the Brigand. Here we go. We're removing the Ruin and collecting the sword. It's going right in the horde. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and place 1 more Highway Bandit on this path, connected to a clearing with our pieces. This Brigand is the difference maker. Remember, the lizards still have a bird ambush in hand. So here we go. We're using our second advance to head into this undefended garden clearing here. And we're going to initiate a battle. We're going to get hit with that ambush, but we are going to remove both gardens, even if we roll a 0-0. 1 undefended hit plus Wrathful means we deal 2 bonus hits. All right, we are going to gain 3 points because Elder Treetop gives an extra point. So 3 points for those gardens coming off the map. Now it's time for the final advance. Notice we left 1 warrior behind in this fox clearing to maintain rule and oppression here. We're going to do the same thing in this rabbit clearing, leaving 1 warrior behind as we head over and battle the street band for the end here. Now, let's say it's worst case scenario, roll a 1-1. They're taking out our spare warrior, but we are also taking out the street band. Even if it was 0-0, Wrathful would have meant we could deal at least 1 hit to this guy, taking him out and leaving us in charge of 6 clearings. Let's highlight those now. For our evening, we have no cards to incite, so we're skipping straight to oppress. We control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clearings. That's going to get us 4 points as the Lord of the Hundreds, leaving us exactly at 30 and winning us the game. If you were able to see that far in advance from the beginning of the turn, you are indeed a master of the Lord of the Hundreds and a root strategy paragon. Congratulations. There's more where this came from. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of the Hirelings and some of the Marauders factions making their way into the puzzle videos. And until next time, I'll see you around the woodland.